Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's the big one this weekend. It's the Manchester derby. I don't know how to feel about this weekend. I really don't. I'm confident, but I'm a little bit nervous at the same time, given City's recent form. So I wanted to speak to United fans. So I'm here with Joe Smith from Stretford Paddock. Joe, how you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I don't like Derby week, especially when you know how it feels to be clear favourites for a while. But right now, City are the favourites these days, and that adds a little bit extra, doesn't it? You know, that expectation is sometimes what makes you feel a little bit anxious. But anyway, Joe, United, United are an interesting side at the moment. I want to know, what's your current summary of the season so far? How are you feeling about where United are at?
United are pretty much in a kind of recovery season, I think. Obviously, the first sort of third, the first portion of the season that saw Solskjaer get sacked was largely a disaster. We've had a couple of good moments, beating Leeds early on, beating Newcastle on Ronaldo's return. They were obviously great. But other than that, a few sort of lucky, fluky wins and some Ronaldo magic in the Champions League. It was pretty diabolical for those first, sort of 20 games or 15 games or so, where it felt like pretty much every week, except some of those games I mentioned, we didn't deserve to win the game. And most of the time, we didn't win the game. And then obviously, any season a manager gets sacked, the rest of the season generally is recovering from the position that you were put in by those poor performances that led him to get sacked. Obviously, we're not going to sack him if we're top of the league. So now it's up to Ralph Rangnick to try and recover. And again, we're sat in a position as United fans where top four is the aim, which is such a shocking and embarrassing position to be in after, like you said, the many years where we were the favourites for derbies, for titles, for trophies, for pretty much every trophy in England or that United were involved with, and they were one of the favourites, and that's just not the case anymore. So again, we're sat here hoping for top four, looking as though it's possible. Obviously, Arsenal got to win some games in hand, and they can go ahead of us. But again, it's another season where Champions League is the aim, and we get to this point where we're in the Champions League, and none of our fans think we can win it. So you almost think, well, we're desperate for top four. We've got to get Champions League football. We've got to get it. Do you think we can win it? No. So what's the point? I like to remain slightly optimistic and hope we can do something in the Champions League. But yeah, this season is one of recovery and kind of recuperation after what was obviously a diabolical start that ended in Solskjaer being sacked.
On that subject of recovery, has there been signs of it under Rangnick? How are you feeling so far about your start of the club? I mean, from an outsider, we were chatting on the paddock about this, and I said I don't watch United games anywhere near as much as I should, simply because I focus on City. So I can't pretend to be following United intensely. I've caught the odd bit here and there, but from the outside looking in, it still looks like it's the same old United. Is that an oversimplification? Have things changed a lot from your perspective? Someone watches United all the time, and are you confident you can achieve your goals this season?
I think it may be a slight oversimplification. I think if you'd watched the last 10 or so games under Rangnick, we are much more secure at the back. We concede fewer chances than we did under not just Solskjaer this season, obviously, because that was, like I said, free fall at, by the end, as it always is when a manager's about to be sacked. But even last season, the amount of times we conceded 0 or 1 goals under Rangnick and the amount of chances we concede per game is so much fewer than it was in recent seasons. And, we've had some pretty decent seasons. Some cup finals and semi-finals, finishing second in the league. I know they're not great, but it's not as though we've been awful under Solskjaer and then now it's slightly better. It's been pretty decent, and I think Rangnick's taken it up another notch. So I think it's maybe slightly better than it seems. This thing that we've got at the minute of creating tons of chances and missing them all is quite mind-boggling when you consider the quality and the calibre of the players who are missing them. You've got Bruno Fernandes, who I think has the record for most goals in a season for a midfielder pretty much ever. You've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who's got the record for most goals by a footballer of all time, and they can't stop missing chances. Like, you couldn't have better calibre in front of goal, and we keep missing chances. I think in February, we created more chances, more clear-cut chances than Liverpool, and scored a third as many of those clear-cut chances. It's quite mind-boggling at the moment. So I think it's almost been a slightly unfair set of results for Rangnick, because he's coached this team into a position where we do control games more often than we used to. We do create more chances. We do concede fewer chances, and yet the results aren't actually that much better. So I think, without trying to be too much of a United fan sat here going, it's been unlucky, I think there has been a bit of bad luck for United recently.
Oh yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I was looking at the stats as well before we did this, and United, they are usually outplaying the other side, and I guess it must be frustrating for you as well because there are still the occasional moments of optimism, where you have a good performance, but then follow it up with, a struggling one against a relegation candidate, which is just I mean, obviously, even if the football's different, it just feels very United, what I've grown used to anyway. Highs 1 minute and then back down to earth, the next. And that's been the story of the past few years, really. I mean, I think the football, you're probably right, it has probably slightly improved, but results ultimately all that matters. I mean, what is actually the change, like stylistically? What is it United doing these days? And how, I guess it leads us to the next question. How are you expecting United to, cope against City? Not cope, but play.
Yeah, well, it might be a case of cope.
I hope it's cope.
If the game at Old Trafford was anything to go by, it might be cope. In terms of how things have changed, I think we are more well drilled. I think the press and the tactics are more obvious. I think one thing that ended up becoming it was basically a free hit on Solskjaer by the end. I think United fans and opposition fans alike could just essentially say anything they want about how crap he was, how he's just go out there and vibes and all that PE teacher shit that you heard for the last 3 years. And you don't finish above Liverpool, above Chelsea. You don't beat City 3 times in a season or Chelsea 3 times in a season, get to cup finals and semi-finals, be top in January like we were last season. You don't do those things if you're a shit manager, because we know we've seen plenty of bad managers in the Premier League and across Europe.
He needed more time, mate. He needed more time.
I'm not saying he needed more time, and I think by the end it was the right thing to do to let him go, because obviously he had lost what he had at Man United. But it became like, you could just say he just tells the players, go out and have fun, like he's some under-6s coach. And that's obviously not the case. But I think we are seeing a step above that even now. I think we're seeing Rangnick have this team much more well-drilled. I think he found a way to finally fit Pogba and Bruno into the starting 11 at the same time, which is something we've been looking at for a while, or something we've been trying to do for a long time. We're creating a lot of chances, like I said. I just think it has been slightly unlucky, but the pressing style is more evident. It's just doing it over 90 minutes that we still seem to be struggling with.
So how are you expecting United to essentially line up against City? Because obviously you've been patrolling goals a little bit different recently. You are getting at teams with great chances. City are a different kettle of fish, to some of the recent teams you played. Of course, Atletico, high quality team there. But ultimately, this isn't the Watford. This is City, and what we do these days, we control games. And I think it's probably relatively fair to say that if United try and do that, they won't be able to do it as good as City. So do you have to adapt how you're going to play, or expecting them to try and carry on what you've been doing recently?
I think it'll be less adapting than we've seen in recent seasons. I think it's certainly against, under the likes of Jose, and at times under Ole, it's been very much accepting City's strengths and trying to counterpunch. I think we'll obviously have to do that because, City are a much more well-established team with a squad that we know can win the big trophies and have been doing so for the last sort of decade. There will have to be a little bit of, we have to kind of play against your strengths rather than try to beat your strengths. But I think United will do more holding the ball than they have done in recent years. I think we'll at least try to. Whether we are successful at that or not is obviously another matter, and City are a good team. But I think that, how we saw Tottenham play against City, counter-attacking, but fully going for it when they go for it. That's what Ole did so well, especially at the Etihad, where we'd sit back, but when we counter-attack, it's not, just chip the ball up and hope something happens. It's full-backs get up. Rashford is obviously using his pace and has, done City a few times. I think you have to fully go for it when you do counter-attack, because sometimes you see teams against City they're so worried about City holding the ball and scoring that when it's a chance for them to attack, they only sort of half do it because they're scared of them. And I think sometimes that's, as all great teams do, people respect City too much. United had that for years, where you think, are you even trying to beat us? And sometimes you watch teams against City and you think, you're not giving yourself a chance to win this game because you're too worried about what City are going to do. And obviously that might lead us to be getting beaten, by City. But I think the only way we've got a chance of winning is if we really go for it in those moments where there are those opportunities. We have to fully go for it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. To be honest, some teams have had joy against City this season. Southampton have given us, some really tough games, and obviously Spurs. We've got this weird Spurs curse going over, but that was built around the playmaking abilities of Kane and the pace of Son on the counter. And they haven't got anyone right now as good as Kane. But you do have players who are capable of playing lovely passes, and you do have players, of course, who are capable of being explosive on the break. So that is something that City fans are a little bit concerned in, and I'm sure Rangnick is smart enough to notice those potential weaknesses for City. How Having said that, how are you feeling about this game personally? You know, away from all this stuff, are you optimistic given United's recent form? Are you expecting the worst? Because I'd understand either, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm a little bit of both. Some minutes I'll sit there sort of idly thinking about the game, thinking, no, we'll do these. We'll put this behind us. This thing of like making 6 chances and scoring 1. I think we'll make 3 and score 2, and we'll have a good chance of beating them. And then other times I just reliving the game at Old Trafford, where not only did we not get a goal, we didn't really get a chance. Like, it was just sort of pathetically clinical by United, pathetic by United and clinical by City. But there's part of me that thinks we're a different team to the team we were then. And if City underestimate United, then I think they'll be shocked, because even against Atletico, where they were better than us and we had a really bad day, we still made chances, we still got the goal. And if we can be clinical, I think we've got a good chance. But I'll be honest, I flip-flop between what I think and what I hope, and I'm not sure whether it's optimism or my actual thoughts on the game. But I've got a feeling that I think United can win. Oh,
okay. So what's your prediction then?
I'm going to go 2-1. I think City will score. But I think United will make more chances than we did in the game at Old Trafford. Obviously, we can't make any less or any fewer chances, should I say. But yeah, I think we'll be more clinical. Again, I know XG is a bit of an overblown thing because it doesn't take into account anything other than the shots you had. It doesn't take into account how you controlled the game, or the ability that the players had, or who you're playing against, or anything like that. But at some point, United's ridiculous underachieving in front of goal has to end. And if it's ever going to, this month has to start with City. So we've got a huge month: Liverpool, Tottenham, Atletico again. It's ridiculous, really, the teams this month. So let's sort of get a bit of luck, maybe, and 2-1. Ronaldo to score.
Well, that's the thing for me as a City fan. I've got to be confident, of course I am. But our form hasn't been perfect recently. It hasn't. We've been a little bit one-paced. We've been looking a little bit lacking confidence, but there's always that worry about a narrative in football, and I hate it. I hate the idea of Ronaldo or Sancho might feel he's got something to prove, and Ronaldo, of course, given the links in the summer. I just fear him scoring and doing his stupid celebration down in front of our fans. But so there's always that worry for me. But either way, Joe, thank you so much, man. Thanks for coming on. Go and check out Stretford Paddock if you haven't already. Joe's a top bloke, as you can tell. And I'm hoping Joe has a terrible weekend, with all due respect to Joe.
Cheers,
thanks so much, man.
much.
Also, I don't know, a healthy weekend, but football terms and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, mate, cheers. It's been a pleasure, man. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Cheers for having me.
See you later, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And also, I was having some thoughts the way around over on their preview as well, which you can go and check it out. Anyway, catch you next time for another video. In a bit.